Good morning. Welcome back into Wake Up America. It is Tuesday, July the 19th. I'm Rob Finnerty, and here are some of the stories that we're following for you this morning. The Biden administration taking another victory lap over falling gas prices while ignoring high inflation numbers, while a new CNN poll found that most Americans are not happy with the president of the United States, the economy, or the state of the country. We'll get into that in just a little bit. Plus, could Dr. Fauci finally retire? Listen.
I can't be in this job forever. And I don't anticipate I'll be in this job before the end, at the end of the first term of President Biden.
Literally almost 3 years away. If he does lose, a new president would take the oath of office in January 2023. So he left it pretty wide open there. But Dr. Fauci says he will retire before the end of the president's first term in office. So what is Dr. Fauci's legacy? And could he ultimately be remembered as one of the villains when the history of COVID-19 is finally written? We'll get into that. And Elon Musk versus Twitter. Both parties will have a hearing today in court to see if that trial can actually move forward. We will also be talking about that this morning right here on Wake Up America. But first, the spin at the White House continues. Take a listen.
You're having it both ways, Jared, because when the gas prices go up, it's got nothing to do with the president. When we see some decline, you want him to get the credit.
Pressure on this White House to try to do everything it could to ameliorate inflationary pressures, and the president has reacted from the beginning. So
it was Putin's fault. When they're coming down, he gets the credit.
Yeah, I very much disagree with that framing. I think what's happening here is a president who is working tirelessly to address the largest constraint, probably the toughest constraint facing American households right now.
Okay, that was White House chief economist Jared Bernstein defending the steps the president has taken to combat record high gas prices and a 40-year high in inflation at 9.1%, something we haven't seen since 10 months into Ronald Reagan's first term in office back in 1981. Pretty unbelievable. For more on this, let's welcome in New York Congresswoman Claudia Tenney. Congresswoman, good morning. Great to have you on.
Good morning. Great to be on. What a day.
I know. It's unbelievable stuff. What do you make of this sudden flip from the White House? Now the White House is actually taking credit for falling gas prices.
We still have record high gas prices, though.
Exactly.
That's what they're not talking about.
Exactly.
And it's not just the spin room. They're lying. They're lying to cover up the fact that they are still trying to force this green energy climate agenda on us when we can't even manage it. 28% of the U.S. energy grid is still fueled by coal. That's a lot, almost a third. So how are we going to suddenly go to green energy? Guess what they're going to do? They're going to continue to go to the taxpayers while we have record high inflation, over 9%, 9.1%. The actual inflation, they're saying in New York State, where we are, is over 11%, 11.4%. But we know the prices, and that's an average, so we know the prices are even higher. We know this energy agenda, this incredibly cruel agenda against the middle-class Americans is really hurting. You're hearing it everywhere, not just in upstate New York, but across the country. But what are the Democrats doing? This is Appropriations Week, the beginning. They're talking about huge increases in the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, the new green climate agenda, spending money on even housing and urban development to spend more money to retrofit houses and make them energy efficient. Well, we have people literally suffering, starving, unable to get to work, a food supply problem, a war in Europe, a disaster at the southern border. We're desperate for resources. They're talking about increasing taxes. This is a disaster that they're just turning their heads on because they cannot get off the religion of climate. And we see this in New York. We're the perfect incubator. The Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act is like the Green New Deal, in many ways almost worse, and New Yorkers are suffering from it right now. By 2024, and that's just a year and a half away, New Yorkers will no longer be able to build a house or a commercial structure that is hooked up to any kind of fossil fuel source. And that's why we have some of the most rich reserves of shale, the Utica and Marcellus shales that we can't touch in this state, that would give us prosperity and energy security.
And that's why people are abandoning the state of New York.
If we could export this.
The state of New York losing an electoral vote, and that'll come into effect in 2024. People are abandoning the state of New York, and for good reason. You brought up a great point. So I would love if things were 9.1% more expensive than they were a year ago in June of 2021. Take a look at this graphic here. So in some cases, people are paying nearly 100% more than they were a year ago, last June. So food up over 10%. Check out oil. Oil's at 98.5% more than it was a year ago. JP Morgan had a report that came out on Sunday that said before the midterms, we could have oil at $3.50 a barrel, which would translate roughly to gas at $15 a gallon. This is before the midterms. Congresswoman, I looked it up. The previous record high for gas in America, again, this is record nationwide, was $4.11 per gallon, financial crisis July 2009. We are at $4.49 a gallon right now, 38 cents more. What are they celebrating?
All they're doing is continuing to double down. You listen to John Kerry melting down. We've got to get away from fossil fuels. You know, fossil fuels have created prosperity. Fossil fuels also help a lot of the poorer nations around the world. So we're using this, not just are we making our country poorer and hurting the middle class and lower income people who can least afford it. We're imposing these climate values, this climate agenda on countries around the world that are also struggling, and it's even harder for them to survive. They are not moving away from this. Inflation is going to continue, and they really don't care. You see the arrogance or the spin, I call it lies right now, coming out of the White House, because they really think that we need to understand that they know what's good for us.
Right.
We don't know what's good for us. They do, and that's what authoritarianism, that's what communism is in essence, and they're using it to divide and conquer and to really hurt Americans. We have the true elites. They're still flying around the world in their private jets. They're still, living in their air-conditioned homes in coastal areas and around the world. While it's going to be 93 today. And what are we doing? A lot of us can't even afford to keep the air conditioning on. A lot of us are, struggling even to have a fan hooked up. And that's what they're trying to move us to. They don't understand that energy is prosperity. And the number one issue that we are facing in this country and around the world is energy illiteracy by the elites and the people running everything.
Congresswoman,
we need to change that.
We've got just about 30 seconds left. Joe Biden's approval rating, according to CNN, by the way, this is CNN this morning, 38%. The New York Times has him at 33%. To put that into perspective, the 2010 Obama midterms, Obama was at 38%. That's the lowest he got. Republicans picked up 63 seats that November. What happens 111 days from today, November the 8th?
I hope we can get there, but if we don't deal with election integrity and make sure that we're following what the Biden administration is doing with executive orders, trying to do exactly what Mark Zuckerberg, the Facebook billionaire, did to allow vote harvesting and to make it legal, we may not see 60 seats. I think we can take the majority. It's going to be larger. Republicans have to be vigilant on election integrity. That's why I founded the Election Integrity Caucus, and that's why we need to pay attention to this issue, because the Democrats want to stop the red wave from coming to shore. Okay.
Congresswoman, great having you back on. Great to see you again. We appreciate it. Look forward to doing it again soon. Congresswoman Claudia Tenney.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.